Summer has come and passed. The innocent can never. Oh, wait. What? You're saying he's still alive? Oh, this is awkward. Oh, just continue with the video then. Greetings and salutations. It is I, Mr. Nothing, the museum curator of the weird and the strange, and the host who might be a witch king. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual literature that I have found in my travels through a hellish landscape on my way to return substandard jewelry to a volcano. Welcome back to my Lord of the Rings read-along series where I talk about all the different books that I've been reading in the series. I have made books on videos on books 1 through 3 already, which you can find and return to in case you don't know what's already happened and what I thought about each individual book. But today I want to talk about book 4. Which each book is individually named sextilogy. The previous book was actually supposed to be called The Treason of Isengard, which I think is a pretty cool name. And this book is called it was called The Two Towers, so specifically The Two Towers, or it was called Journey into Mordor, which is another interesting title. So that is where we were at previously. In the last video, we were talking about how Aragorn battled in Helm's Deep and ended up defeating Saruman's forces before Saruman just decided to hold himself up in Orthanc, the giant tower that he resides in. So what was going on with Frodo this whole time? Well, that is what Book 4 explores. So join me as I provide a little summary and a little analysis and talk about what is going on as Frodo and Samwise journey into Mordor. So the book starts with Frodo and Samwise noting how they're kind of lost and they're losing time as they march through Emyn Muil, which is sort of the sort of like a mountain ridge that leads into Mordor. They also note that Gollum has been following them because he wants the ring, he's got to have it, and he will kill to get it. But they end up catching Gollum, and Frodo believes that it is a good idea to sort of tame him and appeal to his good old Smeagol side because Frodo believes that he can guide them through Mordor, and maybe there is some goodness to Gollum. But Samwise, on the other hand, believes that, he knows the power of the ring and he doesn't trust Gollum. But he goes along with Frodo because Frodo is a good guy who sees the good in everyone. Gollum agrees to escort them through Mordor, although he's kind of worried because, he's worried that Sauron will see them and take the ring away, which is his precious. He really wants the ring. But in an interesting note, Frodo and Samwise don't tell Gollum that they're going to destroy the ring, and I think that if they did, Gollum would be hesitant and he would even try to claim the ring. But Gollum's willing to do it, and they're willing to obfuscate the truth for a tiny little bit. He ends up escorting them through the Dead Marshes, which is a sort of watery area, the last water they'll get for a long time. And Gollum tells him, don't go near the bright lights because there's dead bodies in the water, and you too will be a dead body. I think the Dead Marsh was sort of a battleground in a previous installment of the war that Sauron had against Middle Earth. While they're in the Dead Marsh, they see some Nazguls flying around the sky, and they gotta hide because it looks like Sauron kind of knows that they're journeying into Mordor, and he wants to reclaim the ring by all means possible. At the same time, you get this dichotomy between Smeagol and Gollum. Smeagol is the last remaining human part of this goblin-like inhuman creature. And Gollum is just that base part that only wants the ring and is willing to kill to get it. And so Frodo's hoping that like he can bring out as much of Smeagol as possible to redeem him in some sort of way. But Sam is looking after Frodo as sort of a servant-y kind of way, doing his best to make sure that Frodo has as much sleep and as food as he possibly needs, at the detriment of his own needs, it appears at times. And he's definitely looking out for Gollum because he doesn't trust Gollum, and like he hears him talking to himself, and it's clear that like he still wants the ring. And like Samwise is worried about that. Like, why would you trust someone who like is willing to kill you to get anything they want? At one point, a group of soldiers stopped them, and they started asking a bunch of questions. Like, first of all, who's that Gollum-y, like goblin creature traveling with you? Are you spies? Are you weird orcs? We don't know who hobbits are for some reason. And so Frodo explains as much as he can without talking about the ring, and like he ends up bringing up the name Boromir, and all these people are very interested in that name because he used to travel with them. And the man named Faramir is initially suspicious of Frodo, like, and he reveals that like a couple days ago he saw Boromir's body on a funeral pyre. So how could Frodo have known this man? And Frodo, for the first time, finds out about another death, possibly his fault. I don't think it's his fault, but Frodo probably thinks it's his fault because he could have left the Fellowship before, and fewer people would have died. And so there's a lot of guilt weighing on his mind. But like Frodo explains it, and Faramir eventually reveals that he is Boromir's brother, who is very sad about his brother dying, but still has to fight in this war that's going on against, especially as more of Sauron's forces come pouring over Mordor into Gondor and whatnot. He starts interrogating Smeagol as well when he captures him, which only stands to irritate, Gollum Smeagol even more. But he eventually releases him as long as he promises just to lead Frodo into Mordor and nothing else. Samwise reveals that Faramir, Samwise reveals that like they had the ring by accident. Like Samwise understands it's an accident to reveal it. So like Faramir is like, "Oh, I want the ring as well." But he says he's joking, and I don't think he's actually joking. I think he would claim the ring if he could, especially to get it out of the hands of Sauron. But he lets Frodo and Samwise go and gives them a warning about what they might find in Mordor as they continue along. Eventually, they make their way towards the gates of Minas Morgul, which is a sort of undead city where a whole bunch of terrible dark creatures live. While they're there, like an explosion sort of happens, and a bunch of like troops come marching out of Minas Morgul, led by the Witch King of Angmar, who is sort of an indestructible terror creature that serves as like a general in Sauron's army. And Frodo and them hide from the Witch King as he's marching by, but he stops and sort of senses that they're there. And luckily Frodo doesn't put on the ring as he's tempted to do because the Witch King would know about it. But the Witch King ends up marching on, and they decide to hurry away as fast as possible because, who knows what else is lying there in Minas Morgul that can capture them and, torture them. So they continue along their way. Gollum eventually leads them to Cirith Ungol, which is a tower filled with orcs, and, Frodo and Samwise are a little wary of it, but Gollum says this is the only way, and there's also a cave that we can go into as a sort of shortcut, and we won't have to encounter the orcs. However, Gollum has betrayed Samwise and Frodo. Big surprise there, as he leads them straight into Shelob. Shelob is a demon spider. She's described as being one of the offspring of Ungolith, who was also a giant demon spider who died out long ago. And it's said that Shelob's been existing in Mordor since long before Sauron showed up. And Sauron's aware of her and keeps her around because like it keeps his enemies out, and like she'll eat anything that comes by, even orcs and whatnot. Gollum is aware of Shelob as well, and kind of worships her, and has led the hobbits to Shelob because he knows that Shelob will eat the hobbits, and hopefully he can reclaim the ring. Because Shelob doesn't want the ring or care about it, she just wants food. So Shelob is an interesting character, and Frodo and Samwise do their best to fight against both Gollum and Shelob. Samwise manages to like beat up Gollum, and he flees, and then he ends up killing Shelob, but not before she bites Frodo or stings Frodo in some way, and he ends up apparently dying. So sad for Frodo. Like, I guess that's the end of him. Samwise has to make a choice here. Does he stay with Frodo and abandon the journey, or does he take the ring and go forward? And he ends up choosing to take the ring, because if Sauron gets the ring, game over for everybody. There will be no more Hobbiton, no more Shire, no more anything. And so I think Samwise makes the best choice he can there, given the circumstances. Some orcs show up, and he puts on the ring, which is pretty shocking. And like, so he's able to hide from the orcs, but they see Frodo still lying apparently dead. They revealed that he's actually not dead. Shelob just injected him with like some sort of sedative to knock him out, and so that she can eat him later. So that makes Sam feel a whole lot better. But the orcs take Frodo away back to Cirith Ungol, the giant tower, and despite Sam's efforts to get in, they lock the door before he can get there. So that's where the book ends, with Frodo, or with Sam, like trying to rescue Frodo and being unsure of how he's going to go about doing that. And can you imagine like 1955 reading this book and being like, I wonder what's going to happen next, and like having to wait an entire year for the conclusion to this wonderful series. That would drive me mad, I know for sure. In terms of analysis, there's a lot of juicy stuff to talk about here. The first is Tolkien's description of Mordor. It's so interesting how it differs so much from his description of other stuff in Mordor. Like, you have Lothlorien with the elves, and the elves are sexy people, and everything looks beautiful, and you hear music playing, and like there's so much greenery, it's wonderful. And you have Hobbiton, which with the hobbits who live in the holes in the ground, and there's a bunch of farms, and things look pretty good. It looks surprisingly like New Zealand, but like, then you have Mordor, which is described as a hellish place. There's a dead marsh with dead bodies still in the water, and potentially you could be sucked into the water and killed. It's because of the ash, there's a perpetual sense of night. There's demon spiders that try to kill you at every single chance, and you can't really drink the water, Faramir says, for reasons that are unknown, but like probably poison you of all things. Like, Mordor sounds hellish, and I can very easily see how Tolkien like used the description of actual hell to as influence for describing Mordor, and I think it's really wonderful. It's such a great contrast to the rest of Middle Earth, and it does raise a question though. Like, did Sauron seek out Mordor because it was already a volcanic hellish location? Or was Mordor at one place like a beautiful place, and because Sauron chose it, like he eventually turned it into a nightmare location? That'd be an important question. Although it's said that Shelob lived in Mordor far before Sauron came, so I think that's the answer there. It was already hellish, and then Sauron showed up. So again, like, great description, beautiful. like in a dark, morbid sense, and like I think the story's all the better because of it. It's also interesting to see the ring become more powerful as they make their way into Mordor, as the ring tries desperately to make its way back to its master. The ring seems to, like, before, like, Frodo was already feeling pretty negative while he held the ring, like, even before they got to Mordor. But now it's sucking his soul out of him, and, like, it's bad news bears for him. Like, it already has an effect on Gollum, and it seems to be getting stronger as they go in, and Gollum wants to reclaim it even more, to the point where he's willing to lead Frodo and Samwise into Shelob's lair and kill them so that he can reclaim it. And then there's the idea that, like, all the spies can kind of sense the ring in Mordor, which is why Frodo doesn't put it on. And it's probably a mistake that Samwise put it on at all either. So that's a little kind of scary going on right there. I like how this is a consistent theme throughout the book. Like, Tolkien could have probably, like, described the ring once and given an example of how deadly it is, but the fact that he describes it throughout the book, it makes it one of the most iconic, like, pieces of jewelry ever. Like, one of the most iconic, like, things in all of literature. Like, this negative little piece of jewelry that is made of pure evil and corruption, and everywhere it goes, people want it and want to kill for it, and nobody should have it. It should be destroyed, and it's a good thing they're going to Mount Doom. I also like Frodo's growing despair, in terms of, like, how he was ready for the journey at the beginning, like a little hesitant to go on the journey in the beginning, but now at this point he wants to give up and go home. And the only reason he is going on is because of the sacrifices of other people, is because he feels guilty for their deaths. So, like, they would have died in vain if he were to just give up. And so literally the only thing that is keeping him going is the memory of those other people, and probably also Samwise. Like, Samwise is abnormally cheerful, possibly because he has to make up for Frodo. Like, he has to keep Frodo going, and if the moment that, like, Samwise is made to be sad or something like that, like, game over. So, like, that's a lot of pressure for Samwise as well. Like, he has to maintain that cheery attitude, or, like, who knows what's gonna happen. So yeah, I like Frodo's growing despair, because it's so anti like traditional hero. Like, you could have that traditional hero man who's like, let's go on this journey, I can bear any torture, bear any pain. But Frodo, like, he can't bear, like, the heavy presence of the ring, and, like, that's very normal, very human. I couldn't bear the extreme terror of the ring, probably. Like, Aragorn probably couldn't do it. And I think that's what makes Frodo such a great character, is because he's doing his best, and his best probably isn't good enough, and that's a really hard message to hear. But luckily, he's continuing as best as he can, and I think that's like really good writing on Tolkien's part. I would say the one of the main problems is both Faramir and Sauron. Sauron feels like an invisible character, and, like, I would like more of a presence from him, although I understand why he's not there. And Faramir is a terrible character, much like his brother Boromir. Like, both unnecessary, both seem to hinder Frodo for no good reason. Like, there's already roadblocks, there doesn't need to be Boromir and Faramir. And it really seems like they exist just to show how the sons of Denethor are fail sons, how they're incompetent and they don't deserve the throne like Aragorn. And for those characters just to exist to show the good side of another character, like, that's not good writing, in my opinion. That weakens the story a bit. Like, I like Boromir, and that, like, there's some personality to him, but Faramir doesn't have that personality. And so, like, I feel like the story could have done without them in some way. Like, you could write, like, Aragorn needing to unite the kingdoms without introducing Faramir or Boromir or even Denethor, who I presume is going to be in the third book. But, like, that's a small gripe I have with the story. It doesn't undermine it as much as what I said in a previous video, where, like, Gandalf shows up without a proper explanation for how he was revived. So that's a bigger flaw in my opinion. So yeah, that's one of the few issues I've had with this chapter. So overall, I really loved this book. Book 4 is magnificent because of the description of Mordor, because of Frodo and Samwise's growing despair, because of Gollum just using and abusing these guys. Gollum's pursuit of the ring is a wonderful like sub story within this story. And yeah, I feel like this is the best story that I've read so far. Like, whereas you could just skip a bunch of pages in Fellowship of the Ring. Like, I feel like you can't do that here because you're soaking up a lot of information related to Frodo's feelings and like how he perceives this quest and like what it means to him to finish this quest, as well as like Mordor, like how hellish it is and what's in it, like what's coming for Aragorn, presumably in the next book. So yeah, I absolutely love this, and I can't wait to read more in the coming days. So look out for my next video on book 5. Possibly on Monday. We will see how that goes. In the meantime, don't forget to leave a comment if you want to disagree with something I said about the series, or you want to add something to what I said. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people may find out about this wonderful series and may join us for our first read-along if they've never read this before. Until then, I bid you a wonderful time in your weird travels. Farewell.